Prescott's Town Council meeting for Monday, June 21st, 2021. I'd like to welcome everybody tonight and also begin right with item 1, our call to order, and move right on to the approval of tonight's agenda. And item 2, that recommendation reads that the agenda for the council meeting of June 21st, 2021 be approved as presented. Can I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Ostrander, seconded by Councillor Shankar. Any comments on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. Any declarations from members of council this evening? Besides Gesundheit. Seeing none, 4 presentations, none tonight, 5 delegations, none under either of those items, 6 minutes of a previous council meeting, and 6.1 is the minutes from June 7th, 2021. Recommendation reads that the council minutes dated June 7th, 2021 be accepted as presented. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Shankar, seconded by Councillor Young. Any comments or questions on that set of minutes from earlier this month? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Item 7, under communications and petitions, under 7.1, it's been included in your package tonight, a letter from Edwardsburg Cardinal Mayor Pat Sayaw. Included that for information tonight. I think we have already given approval on this, so I'm not sure if we've been speaking to their engineers yet or not. Matthew, has there been any added communications? I think you've talked to Dave, right?
Yeah, so Dave and I had a preliminary conversation, and we're just more than happy to respond with anything that we can do to help out in terms of the actual engineering information that's required.
Sure, thank you. Any comments on this? Potentially really good news for the region, and like I say, we did approve this some time ago. So if I could ask staff just to prepare a letter of response to Mayor Sayaw, just acknowledging the letter and offering the full cooperation as we did with that. I think it was a full motion about a year and a half ago now. I think it's pre-COVID. It's takes us back a little ways now. So if staff could just prepare something like that for my signature, and we can get a response on there. But any other comments on Mayor Sayaw's letter tonight? Okay, good to go. So we'll move on to item 8, consent reports tonight. We have a number of items there: the information package, a staff report, and the financials, and staff report on project updates. So the recommendation reads that all items listed under the consent report section of the agenda be accepted as presented. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Young, seconded by Councillor Ostrander. Any comments on those 3 items tonight? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. And on to item 9, committee reports. I have a couple of items in there tonight. 9.1 is staff report 54-2021, community safety and well-being plan approval. Recommendation is that council approve the adoption of the community safety and well-being plan, which is attached tonight. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Ostrander, seconder, Councillor Shankar. Mr. Armstrong, can you please take us through some of the highlights of this lengthy process that's been ongoing with us in the counties?
Thank you very much. So as a follow-up from our previous meeting, where we had discussed the fact that we worked with 10 other municipalities and United Counties of Leeds Grenville, really the impetus was that we all use the Ontario Provincial Police, OPP, as our police services provider. And so that led to a good discussion that if we're all working with the same set of providers, that it would be good to be able to work through the plan. So since that meeting, the final plan was issued, as well as we received a clarification that it's only the plan that's being approved. The implementation plan is not part and parcel of the plan. So if you're happy with the plan, implementation will be a separate discussion later this fall. And then at the same time, the Prescott staff did take a stab at possible actions that are very community specific. And then that's what we put in the package this evening. So really what you're seeing there, when we talk about transportation, we're already working with our 3 neighboring municipalities on transportation. We're working through our economic strategic plan with some of the items. I think have already had an initial meeting with the OPP and Leeds Grenville Mental Health and addictions to talk about specific situations. So a lot of what you saw in the plan, we are already either undergoing and have those things in progress, or we're suggesting that they will be done fairly and relatively soon. So we're very happy that a lot of the actions that we're taking are supported by that safety and wellbeing plan, and it provides a map for us to continue to have those discussions. So really, just wanted to clarify that we're only approving the plan. The implementation plan will be a separate discussion later on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. I just will note we did review this and supported it at our Police Services Board meeting last week as well. And again, good points on the how this is going to be administered later on. The counties hasn't even decided on a plan of action here on how to make this an action plan. So discussing that's probably a little premature tonight, but definitely there's some good ideas here that Matt's presented with regards to how we would implement this later on. And we are not bound by whatever the county may decide to do or not do here. Councillor Jansman, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Just to confirm, Mayor, was this the group that the town of Prescott didn't get an invitation to sit around the table?
Yes, initially. There was some confusion there with the initial invitations and the communications with us, but there was some feedback after the fact.
The only reason I'm asking is perhaps we could, I'm sorry, stupid dog. Perhaps we could request a seat at the table during the implementation discussion.
Yes, it is. It is coming back. I think the county's council in the not too distant future. I don't know if it's on the table for their agenda this week, but it is coming up very, very soon. I have talked to the warden about this on a number of occasions. I know there's some real back and forth at the counties on how they're looking at possibly implementing this. As I said during the PSB meeting the other day, I'm very concerned about this leading to a pretty significant new layer of bureaucracy, all about enhancing communications. And while that's good, and there's some good items in here that need to be acknowledged, I am a little concerned about cost and just adding to administration on something that really was kind of pushed on us by the province. So I just like to see a little more of the real need in a lot of these areas and how this would work before I would definitely, I would look at signing on with something like that. But I know the counties aren't there yet either. So anything I could say tonight would be premature. Councillor Ostrander, you were at the PSB meeting on I forget what day of the week it was last week. Now last week we'll say. Mike, you were there. Do you have any comments on this as well?
Well, just a reminder, I sat in on the Zoom meeting to the mayors back in June 2nd or early part of June. That was when it was laid out to all the mayors of the United Counties. And like you were saying, it's very thorough, but it needs to be parsed out as to what affects, say, us more than it would Wolford Township or something else. There's going to be some specifics in there that's going to need to be addressed for probably most municipalities, I would say, but very thorough, very all-inclusive, you might say, and but it certainly needs a little bit of fine-tuning, and I'm sure that's yet to come.
Thanks very much, Councillor Ostrander. Councillor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I echo Councillor's sentiments here. This is a very lengthy and very thorough tome. If you want to read through it, which I did this afternoon, it covers a lot of things. I was disappointed in one respect, though, and the fact that we didn't have a seat around the table, I guess, kind of explains it. But there's a couple of spots in there where they mention things that are going on that obviously include us, but we aren't mentioned. For example, on page 43, they mention Augusta participating in pilot bus project. Well, obviously, it's not just Augusta. We're in there as well, and we're contributing to this project. On the bottom of page 50, when they're talking about rural inclusions in communities, Prescott is missing again. They mentioned Gananoque and Brockville. Well, the facilities are here as well. And the one thing that really concerned me, I mean, inclusions are something that can be added, but the one thing that really concerned me was on page 70 when they're talking about mental health. And they say a child or youth can see a psychiatrist within 90 days. That's 3 months. Or for urgent care within 7 days. If you have a child or a youth who is in urgent care of psychiatric help, 7 days down the road may just not do it. I think some method needs to be given that psychiatric help for people that are really in desperate need of it needs to be coming quicker than that. So I would hope that that could somehow be accommodated, or that since we didn't have a seat on the table, if we've got input, perhaps we could input that desire. Thank you. That's what I had.
Thanks very much for those excellent points. And I will say that we can basically, I mean, how we understood when we went into this, if it's hard to remember back that far because that's pre-COVID as well. But the idea was that counties, we would buy into the county's plan, and then we would take the end results, because we're dealing with the same service delivery groups and so forth. We would take that study and put our own spin on it. So any suggestions, like you just mentioned, Councillor McConnell, or anyone else has, let staff know, and we can definitely look to incorporate that in what we finally implement here. It's really all in front of us. We're really just approving tonight just sort of the basics here, but beyond that, how we implement, how we administer, and even some of the finer points of the plan as they would directly impact on Prescott residents. That's all in front of us, and we can make those changes. So thanks for noting those points, and I'm sure staff has taken a note of those. And if anyone else has anything too, please bring them forward, because as I say, we paid for the plan, and now it's basically ours to do with what we want in conjunction with our partners, but it's going to be a Prescott plan at the end of the day. Any Lee, please.
It's something just occurred to me again, Mayor Todd, and it was something you said that reminded me of it. But in reading through this, when you get down to the end, it indicates that it has to be passed by a certain date, and we're rapidly coming to that date, which is why we're talking about it tonight. But there's also an implementation part of that, which the provincial government is mandating. And that's been kind of passed along. I don't know whether it's got to do with COVID or what, but it concerns me that there's nothing really said about this implementation. Is that going to cost us? Are we going to have to hire somebody to implement this stuff locally? Is this going to be done through the police? Or is it going to be done through the way our social services is normally done, and that's through the county's government?
Essentially, that's still up in the air. These counties hasn't decided on a final implementation. You know, like right at the top, there is a discussion about the multi-sectoral community planning table to implement the community safety and well-being plan. And I think the recommendations called for a chair of this new body, and I thought it called for a hiring of a staff member, but I'm not 100% sure now that I'm thinking of it. Matt, do you remember if the county's recommendation called for hiring?
Yeah, I believe it's down in the urban inclusion that they call for an additional staff member. Obviously, us working with our neighboring municipalities would be how we would address that, as opposed to actually participating in a cost sharing way. And
I will say, not to get too into the details, but I'm not sure what the support level is around county's council with the mayors, but regardless, they don't make the decision for us. That's made at this table. So it's up to us whether we would sign on with anything they would look to do here, or we would establish our own process as Matt's outlined here with a lot of the town of Prescott suggested actions. So there's still a lot to look at here, and I think we'd have to react at some point in the near future once this goes back to counties and they decide what they're going to do, and also see what Gann and Brockville are going to do, and to determine if they're going to partner in this larger effort as well. So there's still ways to go here to how this is going to roll out. But tonight is just to fulfill our responsibilities with regards to the province. That's why the recommendation is to approve the plan as is. Doesn't commit us to anything beyond that. Any further discussion? All right, I'll call the motion then. All in favor? Thanks, everyone. Motion is passed. And 9.2, another item that we have discussed at past meetings is the OPP Detachment Board approval. Recommendation is that council support the joint submission of the Grenville County OPP Detachment Board proposal to the Solicitor General. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Ostrander, seconded by Councillor Shankar. Mr. Armstrong, any comments on this? We discussed it fairly thoroughly last week. We do have the one change, of course, in that Augusta did vote it down last week, but I know they're contemplating potential reconsideration, and I believe Edwardsburg Cardinal did approve it. So I think it is moving forward on other fronts, but if you could give us an update on that, please.
Certainly. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So it's largely unchanged from our discussion 2 weeks ago. We did move the 2 community member representatives and 1 provincial representative, which was the opposite before. So that way we had a little bit more flexibility when it comes to having to fill those positions and not having to wait on the province if the process slows down in any way. So really, that's the change you see here. I believe Merrickville Wolford and North Grenville will be going this evening and next Monday, as well as I believe Augusta is also going to be addressing it next Monday as well. So certainly we agree. I think all of us agree. The CAOs still agree with the intent of how we were addressing this, and I believe everyone is still on board. And I believe Augusta will be addressing it going forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Any comments, questions, members of council? Councillor McConnell.
Well, as I understand it, Augusta's already voted once not to approve it, and they're rediscussing it, as you say, again. If they maintain they're not supporting it, does that throw the whole baby out with the bathwater, so to speak? Because it was a United Counties, well, no, it wasn't a United Counties, it was a Leeds, but you know what I mean? Where are we? What happens?
I'm very hopeful they're going to reconsider this just in discussions behind the scenes, but if they don't, it will require another discussion. Speaking personally, I like the plan. I think it's an excellent plan that the mayors and the CAOs have come up with here, and I think there is broad consensus and agreement for it. So if Augusta somehow stays out, then we sort of have to discuss on how we submit, because at that point, maybe we can't submit a united proposal for Grenville. Augusta may have to submit their own, and the others would submit the plan as potentially about to be approved tonight by Prescott. But that's still up in the air there. I don't really want to assume what Augusta is going to do. I know there was a bit of surprise there that that vote did go the way that it did, because the assumption was that there was good broad-based support for this from the councils. But we'll just have to see how this plays out in the next couple of days. I wish I had more certainty there, but I know this vote hasn't changed my mind on it, and the numbers back up our perspective all along too, and that we need our own police services board.
If I may, Mayor Todd, I think it was a good a decision that was come to. Is there a timeline involved here where Augusta has to make up their mind, or what?
Well, there is a deadline on the submission to the province. We did get the extension. That's the without looking, is it 27th, Matt?
I believe it's next Monday on 28th.
28th. So it is coming up fairly soon. So we need some clarity on it. We could possibly ask for another extension if we're down to the wire and close. I don't think. I can't speak for the office of the Solicitor General, but they have provided extensions before, and they say they have promised they're not going to force solutions on communities, that it's going to be a good back and forth and a dialogue. So if we need a little extra time, maybe that's what we need to look at as a little extension. But with everyone talking, we think we should have some resolution by next Monday. Anything further from anyone on this this topic? Seeing none, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Thanks, everyone. Motion is carried. So that takes us to item 10, mayor's portion this evening. Just a couple things I want to comment on. I want to thank staff for putting together a great Pride flag raising ceremony last week. We did have to delay that a little bit due to that the horrible discovery out in Kamloops of the Indigenous children's the graves. So I think we made the right decision there on postponing it a little bit, but it was a great flag raising last week. We've got the Pride flags up in I think 3 locations now in town. Unfortunately, it did have to be a virtual celebration again this year. So Pride is really a virtual event in Prescott, as it is in most places this year, thanks to COVID. But I want to thank everyone for the great support, staff for doing such an excellent job for the live broadcast. Sorry, I screwed it up actually by trying to restart a live broadcast, but hey, it's all in fun. But thanks a lot to everyone who's supported that, and the photo looks great too. I've seen on that Caitlin put together with everyone on council. So good on everyone, and happy Pride to everyone out there who's celebrating this month. The other thing I did want to mention, we do have the clinic, the vaccine clinic coming up at the Leo this Thursday. And Matt, can you remind me of the hours? Is it 10 to 7?
I can look those up and I can get back to you on that.
Yeah, it's running all day on Thursday. There were some public spots that were put up on the health unit website. I'm not sure if there's still any available, but I'll just advertise that. Anyone watching tonight to please check into that. And I know local general practitioners were also booking their patients for these second doses. And of course, it is available now to some people that took AstraZeneca as the first dose that want to switch over to Pfizer or Moderna. So anyways, we should have a good turnout for that vaccine clinic this Thursday at the Wheel Boyden Community Center. And we do have 2 more coming up in July and August to help get Prescott and area vaccinated. So I think that's it for me this evening. So we'll move on to item 11, outside boards, committees and commissions, and start with Councillor Jansman tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. The BIA, in partnership with the town, has been very active these days. I would encourage all the residents to check out not only the Town of Prescott website, but also the BIA site. There you will discover activity going on, a promotion. It's Rediscover Our Riverwalk District. And so it's really quite engaging and a chance to win a really nice shop local hoodie. So do that. Also, the campaign I mentioned last time, I believe, is happening right now too, and that's something else that you will see on their website. The planning committee, all is good. We have another meeting tomorrow evening, actually, to look at another CIP application. So that program is going very, very well, as it has in other years. So the balance, of course, that we contribute to that is, with its success, is decreasing. So just be aware of that. And just a fun kudos to the staff, whoever thought of, it was the June 16th post on the town website, making our multi-million-dollar project on Dibble Street West, making it a matching game of how big this hole was getting. And anyway, I kind of thought that was fun. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jansman. Councillor McConnell, please.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Todd. The library is functioning as normal. As I've mentioned each week, you can phone in, ask to have a book reserved, or like I do, just tell them what author you're interested in, and how they'll pick out the ones that you haven't read from that author, and you can pick them up at the door. I'm told that due to the latest lifting of restrictions, they no longer have to set books aside for a certain period of time. They can now put them right back on the shelves again. So I think that's the last step before you can actually go in the library. That's what happened the last time. Walker House, the bathroom is open now. If you are doing something outside as far as one of Walker House activities, you are able to access the bathroom now. The renovations there, of course, are ongoing, and the plumbing has been out. It's not just been COVID. The plumbing has been out of condition there for quite some time due to the flood that we had in the winter. But things are improving there. And unfortunately, like everything else with COVID, supplies of materials are short. Deliveries are longer. So the kitchen that we had ordered to be installed is taking a little longer than we figured. But it is coming along, and hopefully we'll be back to normal very soon. Thank you, Mayor Todd.
Thank you very much, Councillor McConnell. Councillor Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not a lot to report outside of the Arena Build Committee. They're having 2 photo ops this week for their committee members and donors. Thursday afternoon, 4:30, and Friday afternoon at 4:30. They're moving along pretty good. We sort of are getting back into the normal swing of things prior to being shut down and locked down and couldn't get out and see people. We're getting a lot more of that done now, and that's good, because I think Dave Beatty hit it on the nose when he said that you have to talk to people in person in order to ask for money, and how true that is. One other little item for Friday afternoon, Your Worship and myself have been invited to Connect Youth for a little photo op down at the harbor. It's part of their 20th anniversary. I think they just want to get some publicity out on who they are and what they do, and good on them, because they'll be showing off their new motorhome as well on Friday afternoon. So anyway, so that's about it for me. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ostrander. I will note, yeah, we just got that invitation from Connect Youth earlier today, although they were trying to organize this a little while ago, but we will make sure all of council has that. I don't know if we've got it sent out to everyone yet, but we will get it out there. They will be down at the amphitheater for a little while on Friday afternoon. So be great to have everyone stop in at when they can. Just they are trying to avoid, of course, with the COVID regulations right now, you can't have big crowds yet, but they are going to be down there, and they are inviting all to check out their new RV and get a look at their 20th anniversary celebrations. So yeah, thanks a lot for mentioning that, Mike. I swept my mind after I talked to Holly about it this morning. So excellent stuff. Councillor Shankar, please.
Thank you. So a couple weeks ago, we had the joint task force meeting with the mayor and myself and Augusta. That went very well. A lot of good things happening there, and working jointly, which has been a great model and very successful. The Arena fundraising group, as Councillor Ostrander said, going gangbusters. They secured some more donations today. We got another. I found another 20,000 one and a 5,000 one, so that's good. I think we're up over $3 million now. Is that right?
We are.
So,
yeah.
Fantastic, and it would be nice to be able to recognize these people with that photo op. I'm not sure how they're doing it on social media or through the papers or what, but it'll be good to recognize them, and good to get checks in the bank, let's say. So exactly. all good from here.
Thanks very much. Yeah, that's fantastic news almost every day now in the fundraising. So it's just great to see that everything's going so well. And in terms of timing there, we're still on tap there to possibly have the ceremonial shovels on the ground before the end of July. So things are moving along quite well there as well. So great news all the way around. Councillor Young, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I've attended no meetings, so I have nothing to report.
Very much. Right. And thanks everyone for the reports tonight. So we'll move on now to item 12 on the agenda. We'll start off with 12.1, a community service presentation. And I'd like to welcome Samantha Jodwin Miller, welcome again to the team, Sam. Great to have you tonight. And with that, I'll just leave it up to you. If you got a great presentation here with a lot of excellent details. Really happy to have you with us tonight. And go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Can you let me know? Let me know if you can see what I'm putting up here. If I do this. Okay, can everybody see what's going on here? Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, first of all, I'd just like to take a moment to say thank you for the opportunity to speak with all of you this evening. It's been an active 2 weeks already, and the team here has been so supportive over these last 2 weeks. So it's been a good transition so far. Tonight, I've been asked to share my vision of community services within the town of Prescott. So understanding priorities at this point in time, tonight I'm going to discuss 3 main topics. So that will be we'll start with the Leo Boyven potential uses for the Leo Boyven Community Center, the activation of the new Prescott Museum and Visitor Center, as well as kind of the coordination of recreation and leisure activities within the town. So we'll start off with the Leo Boyven Community Center. Based on the recreation plan, the need for programming is evident in 2 really key areas, which are youth programming, as well as targeting the new senior demographic within the town of Prescott. I think that there's such an opportunity here for the Leo Boyven Community Center to become such a staple, such a focal point within the community, no longer solely known for hockey and figure skating, but really like an area for all ages, for all income brackets, and for various types of programming. So you'll see in the following slides some ideas that I've put together that are outside of what was potentially discussed in the recreation plan. So these are just a few new ideas. I've broken them down into categories. And so the first is youth programming. So recognizing that is one of the key demographics that we need to recognize when it comes to recreation and leisure activities. The fact that I also want to say the fact that the new arena is going to be named after a very successful youth ambassador, athletic ambassador, I think is just such a testament to the town's commitment of recognizing and supporting youth within our community. To go along with that, I think that the needs that were found within the rec plan and the concerns that are coming in the wake of COVID-19 for the mental health of youth after this past couple of years, I think that it's going to be crucial for the town to have an area that can be really a safe space for Prescott's youth, with programming that is current, that is needed, that we are listening to what the needs are of the youth and providing them with programming that is something that they want. I think that this space could really serve as a potential, like a dedicated home to youth specific programming. And I think once active, it can just be such a safe haven, I guess, and a place to go for people to go and feel comfortable and know that there's always going to be something there that suits their interests. I think that the availability for athletic programming happening within the Leo Boyven Community Center is endless. This is a list that I have put together based on my knowledge of what is happening in the town, what has happened in the past, and just kind of the circles and the organizations that I've been involved with. I'm sure that this list could be a lot longer than what I've already put in here, but I do think that we have so many opportunities to work with already established organizations, but also to really implement some new organizations, to bring back a little league that could use this facility as indoor training, to potentially work with the golf course and maybe have some simulators available in the off season for all the golfers, to create and to have like a well-run indoor ball hockey league, I think would be a huge hit and kind of a nod to what the Leo Boyven Community Center has offered the town for so long. We can bring back organizations like the Ottawa Roller Derby, who was here and who I believe had plans to come back before COVID hit. I think that if this is marketed strategically, this could just really become an epicenter for athletic programming within the town itself, with partner organizations. And I think that we're going to need to be aware of who the organizations are, what their needs are, and that may involve some facility maintenance and improvements to make sure that what is being used is what is needed by the community. But I really do think that the opportunity here is endless. Moving on into another category, if athletics don't entirely take over availability within this facility, this is whoopsie, sorry about that. Where did I go here? Go back one more. There we go. Yeah, so if athletics don't entirely take over, I think based on my event planning experience, I know that the facilities are limited within the town for very large gatherings. Obviously that can't happen right now, but when COVID does allow for this to come back and to happen again, the Leo Boyven would be a perfect space for large group events, such as all of the things that I have listed here. I can really see this becoming a space kind of like the Memorial Center room or the curling club at the Brockville Country Club, where they're hosting gala events and they're hosting major fundraiser initiatives, where we really don't have a space like that dedicated within the town right now. I do believe that the Leo Boyven Community Center could serve as this potential space for events like that. To go off of that, I know that business trade shows or business fairs have been ran at the Leo Boyven Community Center in the past, and I do believe that that is something that this facility has the capability of doing again, and doing even more so, and really zeroing in on those target demographics, especially that new senior demographic. It would be an interesting way to, if we're offering home shows or boat shows, to tie in that, you know, the marina area, the harbor area, which is such an asset to our town, to really bring these two kind of areas of town together into one, to hit a demographic that has clearly expressed that there's a need for recreational activities, leisure activities within the town, and provide them with opportunity to go to this place and to learn more about what's available. So how do we do that? Well, that's a long list of potential activities that are available. I think that it's clear that whatever is offered needs to address the gaps that have been stated that are all presented in the recreation plan. So for this to be done effectively, the town, we're going to need to develop some close relationships and trustful relationships with local user groups and community partnerships. Based on my experience, my marketing and background, I do believe that there is a customer journey, a cycle, if you will, of recruitment and retention efforts. And all of this begins with awareness. And I believe that awareness is really kind of the very first crucial step in a make it or break it situation, because I think it's proof that in this awareness stage that we are really trying to develop relationships, and we are very much listening to the needs of the community, and understanding what it is they want and what we can do to help them get there. Obviously, once that initial step of trust is made, we move on through the process of consideration and reassurance. And really, these two stages come down to excellent communication skills, timely responses, and proof that we are listening and that we are adjusting and that we are providing availability and providing facility that is needed by these organizations. Conversion happens, obviously, when there's when that trust has really been established, that there's a painless and it's an easy registration system. More to come on that a little bit later, and that people understand the processes so that it's, you know, they can find what they're looking for, it's available, it's seamless, they have a point of contact, and they can just go through this and get ultimately what they wanted, and know that we will be there to support them. That's when loyalty will be granted. With great service, well-maintained facilities, having some loyalty incentives for those who return, who take part and who continue to return, and especially for those who encourage their own circles to get involved and to see this space as a potential opportunity for themselves as well. This is just kind of a breakdown of what we could potentially do in each stage of the journey of the cycle. A lot of it today, I mean, word of mouth marketing is the best kind of marketing strategy. It's also the most cost effective. In today's world, it's going to take more than just word of mouth. This can happen both in person and in today's world, especially in the midst of COVID, digitally. So I think there's to rebuild past partnerships, to create new partnerships. We're going to have a really strategic, user-friendly website, a strong social media presence, content development that is catchy and that gets people excited and gets them interested enough that they make the phone call to find out more. And that, again, what is being offered is addressing the needs of the community itself. This is going to involve engaging in outreach, making sure that we're hitting all markets, all demographics, and that the programming that we provide is accessible and available. This is going to keep the town appearing progressive and engaged and show that we are listening and that we are trying to provide opportunities that are wanted in the community. It goes without saying, oh, sorry, excuse me, I got ahead of myself, but this is just an example of an attraction and recruitment funnel. Just kind of taking those stages and showing you what it is that we can do in a potential situation. In terms of awareness, I think hosting, and this was in the recreation plan as well, but really implementing the idea of hosting annual and biannual meetings for local user groups and organizations to understand what their needs are, and as well as providing them with either one-on-one presentations or providing them with video footage or testimonials to show that things are happening. It does address their needs. It does offer them what they want, to really get them to that conversion stage and get them to be active and involved. It goes without saying that programming needs to be measured. Otherwise, we need to show that this is going to be worth it. So I've broken down measurement into 4 categories that I think that can be implemented immediately once the Leo Boyden Community Center is open again. You can see the breakdown here. We're looking at number of hours, which can be looked at as usage per week by organization, the number of organizations and events that are happening, new ones, returning ones, etc. And the number of registrants that are signed up for specific programming. And then finally, cost recovery. So being able to get to the true cost and understand that potentially what's happening here is at a minimal cost to the taxpayer to just ensure that programming can keep going. That's what I had for the Leo. I'm going to move on to the Prescott Museum and Visitor Center and the activation of this new project. This is one of my focuses currently as we get started on what we're going to do with the museum. So the way that I envision the museum is really to develop it as a focal point within the community that celebrates the history of Prescott. It offers inclusivity to all ages and all income brackets for both locals and tourists alike. The challenge that we're going to face with the museum is keeping it fresh and having people return. And especially during the off season, as I'm learning in my time here so far. So from the way I see the museum is establishing a permanent exhibit that celebrates Prescott in its entirety, and then having an annual schedule on a monthly rotation that involves partnering with local community organizations, kind of in a gallery exhibition format, and hosting events each month to draw people in, not just to see the museum, but to learn about a specific topic within the town of Prescott as well. So I'll go into a little bit more detail on that later. It's going to be incredibly important, I believe, for us to make sure that the museum meets the standards of the community museums in Ontario, especially when it comes to the community standard, which is understanding and recognizing that a community's heritage is part of its identity, that we are actively engaged in the community, we're responding to the needs of the community, and that the museum itself is accessible and relevant and is drawing people in and drawing support from the community as well. So because of my experience within the education sector, I do believe that there's a large opportunity here to partner with the schools in Prescott. That could potentially extend further, but the schools that we have here, I think we have the opportunity to work with them to provide curriculum-based learning opportunities for students. I think if we use our schools as a tool to understand the needs of today's students, to provide and build programming as alternatives for learning for the youth of Prescott, I think if we're able to create those partnerships and offer educational programming, is all of what I've mentioned before. It shows that we are progressive, that we're relevant, and we're empathetic to the needs of the youth in the community today. Beyond this, beyond the schools themselves, there's so much more that we can do here, and much of it we can do, whether or not we can open the doors. It can be done virtually, it can be done in person. This is things such as digitizing our artifacts, being able to offer virtual tours, being able to create QR codes that leads people to other learning environments, offering a newsletter that the community can sign up for on the museum page, and providing them just with active and consistent updates as to what's happening at the museum. So as I mentioned earlier, I think it would be a great idea to offer on a monthly basis kind of a theme each month that celebrates an area or an aspect of the town itself. The beautiful thing about this is that there are way more than 12 opportunities to discuss or to promote and to celebrate. So this is just an idea that I put together just to show you of a potential 12-month calendar. What I would love to see here to add to this is to invite a community member to serve as a guest speaker to speak to the specific topic itself. So this could either be done virtually if we're not allowed to have people inside, or it could be done in person, and we could invite people in, potentially partner with other businesses to offer coffee or tea or refreshments at this kind of event as well. Other complementary events, again, kind of similar to the Leo Boyden Community Center. There's so much that we can do here. The goal, as said before, is to make the museum a staple within the community, something that people feel proud of, that they feel welcomed when they're there, and it's a place that they want to be more than once. These are just some things that we could offer. I have put together a video. I have an idea that I would like to try to implement at some point in time called the Prescott Passport Program. So I'll show you this video in a moment, but basically the idea behind this is that people would come to the museum to register for their Prescott passport, and they would be given a tour of the museum. After completion of the tour, they would be given a handbook or an information guide, digital if it could be, paper copies for those that need paper, that sends them on a tour of the community itself to see some of the sites and attractions that they would have learned about in the museum. And then they would stamp their passport once they got to each location. So once their passport was full, they could do it in a day, they could do it in a month, they could do it in their own timeline. They would then return to the museum to discuss their findings with whatever staff is on site there at the time. And then once completed, they would receive some kind of Prescott passport badge. I had initially thought of something similar to like the Scouts or the Girl Guides badges that we used to get, but something that shows that they took part in this program and that they were active within the community. So this is just a quick video presentation to pique your interest and see what you think, and we'll go from there. So those are my kids. I took them on a field trip one day and let them tour Prescott. But that's the idea behind it. Again, it's to draw people in more than once. So they would come into the museum, get their tour, go out into the community, learn more about Prescott, and then bring them back again to get them inside the doors again, speak with someone again, and really start to develop that kind of relationship that we want people to feel welcomed and returning. Okay, One thing that I do want to talk about briefly, and I do believe that this is a much larger conversation and one that deserves a great amount of focus, is the idea of the creation of a youth advisory group. I do know that this is a topic that has been discussed in the past, and I think it's an initiative that I think it would just be such a positive impact for both youth and council alike, especially now in the wake of COVID-19, when youth need a platform and a place to have their voices heard. So the vision of the Youth Advisory Group would be to provide a communication link between the youth and the town of Prescott and council. This group would serve to encourage programming and activities that will address the needs of the youth of Prescott, enhance quality of life, health, and well-being of the youth in our community. Based on the strategic plan, again, it's clear that this is a focus group that needs focus. We need to have an opportunity for youth to have their voices heard. Again, this is a much longer conversation, but it is something that I think is going to be very important to all of us moving forward in the future. So that is also on my radar. I'm going to go into quickly just the coordination of recreation and leisure. I think one of the challenges we face as a town right now is kind of the cohesiveness amongst all of the organizations and user groups within the town of Prescott. So the challenge is going to be amalgamating all of these services into a central location. I think our focus needs to be on creating a one-stop shop for rec and leisure. We have an opportunity to really bring together so many different aspects of Prescott to celebrate, from our community organizations and the church and the Legion and the schools. There's so much more that can be added to that list. But to really understand, to really be effective in creating this cohesiveness, we need to really understand what's out there and what the need is right now. So this is a starting point. This addresses both attraction and retention, as we discussed earlier. Again, hosting those meetings, whether virtually or in person, to get a greater understanding of what the need is in the community. Conducting regular surveys when events and activities do take place to understand what worked, what didn't work, and what people have as suggestions moving forward. And working with the committees to understand the current need, and to see if there is anything that we can do to address some of that need as well. The volunteer base, this will look familiar. This, again, I think as we look to attract and recruit volunteers, this customer journey is very similar. Going through these 5 stages from awareness to loyalty. And again, so much of it comes down to letting people know what's out there and providing consistent communication and timely responses, and allowing people the opportunity to have their voice and have somebody to connect with to move forward. Okay, so let's continue. I mentioned earlier, and this is something that I know is happening in conversations, but I do believe, and I think the rec plan outlined it out as well, that there is an opportunity here for improvement on our website. Based on my experience of going through the website and learning where and how things are set out, I do think that we can make some major improvements. Users today want a seamless experience. From search to result, they want to be able to find what they're looking for without having to pick up a phone and call. It needs to be quick. It needs to be available. So it would be my recommendation that we bring everything together into one area instead of spread out as much as it is, and have a call to action right at the top of the page that is encouraging people to sign up for a newsletter so that they get monthly communications as to what's happening, what's available, and what they can get involved with. To add to this, I have a full layout, and it's something that we'll be working on for the next little while. But I think that this is going to be key in allowing and letting people know what is out there, what we're offering, and making it a more of a seamless experience for our website users. To add to this seamless experience, especially as we begin to recruit volunteers and we try to recruit organizations to get involved, we need to have this kind of seamless experience. And I think it could be a good idea to offer an online portal for both volunteers and clubs and organizations. In my experience, this has been an excellent way to provide the documentation that people need, whether that's policies, procedures, application forms, having everything accessible in one area where they can just go find it and then fill it out the way that it's needed and provide it to us so that we can get this system, we can get this process moving effectively and quickly. So this would just serve as part of that one-stop shop experience that I was talking about a little bit earlier. And then finally, the Recreation and Leisure Guide. Now, I know this has been done in the past. I don't believe we have had one since 2019, but I think this is just such an incredible tool, and there's so much more that we can do with it. So as we work to create one moving forward, I do think it's something that has to be digital. It has to be incredibly maintained as things change and shift. And so I think it being a digital option will help in that seamless usability that I had discussed earlier, as it will stay relevant, it will stay current, and hopefully kind of curb any questions as to why something isn't happening if it is happening if it's not provided in the leisure guide. It can also, that serves as a tool in itself for an excellent social media campaign. I think video development is going to be key moving forward, as stats show that anybody on social media today they're watching videos, they're not reading. So being able to take what we're offering, put it into a video, be able to share that publicly is going to garner more attention from our community. And then again, I had mentioned earlier, newsletter. This is something that I would like to get to, and that is put out on a monthly basis that really combines all of the different areas within recreation and leisure, including the marina, the library, Walker House, what's happening at the Leo, what's happening at the arena, just giving people kind of like a play-by-play of what's going on and what's available on a daily basis. So that's the 3 or 4 topics in a nutshell. It was quick, but it's a focus point. So if there are any questions that come out of that presentation, I am more than happy to answer them. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, if I can figure out how to do that.
That was great, Samantha. Thanks so much for that very thorough presentation. So we'll open it up to council for comments and questions. Councillor Young, please. And then Councillor McConnell.
Sam, that was a tremendous presentation. You have obviously great vision, and you have set yourself a very ambitious course. And we wish you good luck and support, and go to it, lady. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ray. I think I had Councillor McConnell next.
Thank you very much, Mayor Todd. I've been sitting here for 3 terms, and I've seen presentations that we've had come in that we've commissioned thousands of dollars, several months. What Samantha's done in 2 weeks has impressed me as much, if not more, than most of those reports that we get largely sit on a shelf. Virtually everything that she has said in the past 15-20 minutes is something that we can actually do here, and she is obviously excited about her new job, and I know I am, and I suspect we all are excited to see what she brings us in the coming weeks and months. Thank you very much, and thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor McConnell. Other comments, questions? Councillor Shankar.
First of all, I'd like to welcome Samantha. You're going to be a bright star for us in Prescott. Even that video with those cute kids was fantastic. So really looking forward to working with you, and really, really excited for the town with all those opportunities that you've put together so far. I think it's going to be fantastic. So kudos to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shankar. Councillor Ostrander, please.
Well, just a huge thank you to Samantha. That's, I guess you'd call that doing your homework plus, as far as your master plan of where you're headed with all this. Great vision, great plans, and a lot of work just in, as they've already mentioned, 2 weeks to see that you've put together a sort of a master plan that looks this tidy and all the corners covered. Thanks again for what you've done. And I think you could probably ask any of us around the table for a hand doing something or coming to help at something. And I'm sure we'd be glad to help, because many hands make light work. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Other comments, questions? Seeing nothing else tonight, just had a couple myself. Fantastic stuff. I love the focus on the customer service experience as well. That's really really modern, and it's also something that we need to no criticism intended, but it's something we always need to keep in our forefront, that the taxpayer is our customer, and if we expect people to volunteer and help us out with these things, we've got to do the best job we can to be transparent, communicating with them, and getting things out there. So all this was absolutely fantastic. I love the extensive plans for the Leo. I think it's got unlimited potential there. The only thing I would note, and I actually wrote this down, and then you hit on it almost immediately after I wrote it down, is the idea of that schedule and trying to fill those days, because I know we've discussed this at council in the past. We will be at a position we're going to have to evaluate, or the next council is going to have to evaluate, what we're doing with regards to the new arena and the parkland we have and so forth. And if we're not using the Leo Boivin Community Center, there'll have to be more difficult discussions on that in the future. I really hope that never get to the point where we've got to consider shuttering it or doing something with that facility, maybe even expanding it and renovating it for more modern purposes, because I think there is a need there, but we have to really push and make sure the community knows that we have that space. Obviously, there's huge potential, especially with the partners like the Y. The only other comment I would have is on the museum. And I do think, and I've discussed this with Matt a little bit just in recent weeks, just with regards to an Indigenous focus down there. I think we really need to make sure we embrace that now. We've got an opportunity with still a bit of a blank slate at the museum, and what we've seen in recent weeks and recent years with what's come out of the Truth and Reconciliation Committee and these horrible discoveries that are happening in the site of the former residential schools. And it's just good history too. And I know Fort Wellington does cover that, but I think we really need to place ourselves where we are with Indigenous people that came before us, and of course are still here in our community. There's one interesting point in the community safety study that shows that we do have a significant number of people in Prescott that identify as Indigenous in their responses to census questions. So, I mean, I think it just makes good sense to do that now. And I say, well, with the blank slate down there, we can really embrace this. So I would really suggest that we look at that in both the construction and also when we're booking in guest speakers and so forth. I know there are some people local that have spoken here in the past, Indigenous leaders, and maybe we can tap into that via Parks Canada, would have some good contacts there. And I think the more we can do, especially early on as we open up later this year, I think it's good timing for that. So people are aware. I mean, I was looking at a study, I think it was just today in the paper, where people acknowledge the issues, but they don't connect with them. And it's not a personal discussion, and I think it needs to be. It's not about guilt, it's not about blame, but it's about assessing an honest role here for all of Canada when it comes to the treatment of Indigenous peoples. So anyways, fantastic stuff. I don't mean that as the Indigenous comments as any sort of criticism of your plans. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So echo all of council and thank you and welcome you aboard again, Samantha. This was excellent. And I think it was Lee, though, that said about a year ago when we first started talking about this position, or 6-7 months ago, whatever, time's a mess now. I mean, who knows when anything happened, but I know we did mention it. This is a huge job, and you've really jumped into it feet first here with this great presentation, and all the best to you. And as Mike mentioned too, anytime you need support from us, support from the community, and just let us know. And we're all on the same team, and we want to make this really work and give you all the support you can. And in this job you've taken upon yourself to really jump into. So anyways, thanks very much for everything tonight, and hope to hear more from you in the future. And I guess implementation at youth committee is something we'll probably be hearing back from. You did mention, so great stuff. And Councillor Jansman, is you have your hand up?
No, I was just putting thumbs up to the youth advisory committee idea and how much it was included in the presentation, which is wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, thanks for noting that as well. So anyways, we'll let you go tonight, Samantha. But again, thanks so much for everything, and great presentation, and all the best as we move forward together on this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
So on to 12.2, that staff report 55-2021 Digital Main Street 3.0 funding application. Recommendation is that council directs staff to proceed with the application for funding support through the Digital Main Street program with no anticipated financial impact to the town, to deliver a subsequent version of the Digital Main Street program to Prescott and the South Grenville region partner business communities. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Young, seconded by Councillor Jansman. Dana, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Todd, through you to council. So we were very excited to hear that Digital Main Street has announced another round of funding, not only to hire the Digital Service Squad coordinator to help deliver this program to our business community, but they will also subsequently be announcing another round of the DTG grant, which was the grant made available directly to businesses to support them in implementing some new digital strategies. And also, as part of this program, we're very excited to announce that it has been opened up to all businesses, regardless of type or location. So it's going to be an extremely busy time implementing this new program. And as part of that, we're making a recommendation to council tonight to proceed with an application for funding support to hire an additional digital service squad coordinator who would support Justin St. Pierre in our existing digital service squad coordinator in delivering this program to our business community. So I'm sure many of you have seen and heard the impacts felt across our business community resulting from the first program. We've seen fantastic results and just great responses, wonderful engagement as well from our businesses in the different programs that are being implemented and some of the ongoing marketing activities that Justin has been working to coordinate to engage even more businesses. So we're really excited to see the third round of this program becoming available. And given it has been opened up to a much wider business audience, we do see a need in the hiring of a second digital service squad member to really ensure that we're getting the full benefit out of this program out to our business community. So we're recommending the funding application be pursued. It would be at no cost to the town. The program was fully funded and would be again. Of course, there would be some in-kind costs that would be incurred, but no direct financial cost to the municipality. And we just received word that the application process is now open, effective this week. So if council sees to approve this, we'll move forward with completing the application and getting that submitted right away. It would be a very similar term as well, likely a 4 to 6 month program term that's still being finalized.
Dana, do we know if Augusta and Edwardsburg Cardinal are all in here again?
So we do have a meeting scheduled with them this Friday, just to confirm their interest. We're not foreseeing any concerns there. I think they've been very pleased with the impact to their business community, and given there's no direct cost to the participating municipalities, I think they'll definitely be on board.
Sounds great. Thanks for that report. Open it up for comments, questions from members of council. Councillor McConnell, please.
This sounds like a no-lose proposition. It's not going to cost us anything. We've already had a history of the same thing with excellent success. So I don't see a big problem here. Let's just approve it and move on.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Councillor McConnell. Any other comments from members tonight? I have Councillor Shankar, then Councillor Jansman, please.
Yeah, I echo what Councillor McConnell says. It sounds like a no-brainer. Just quick question for you, Dana. In what way is it now more accessible to all businesses. What were the restrictions before in that now it's different?
So before, the businesses had to very much be within that traditional Main Street location. They had to be within, generally within a BIA actual designated area, or within a very prominent built up commercial area in a more rural community. They did take that into account, that not every township has that urban hub. So we were able to offer that program to some businesses in the townships and throughout Prescott's downtown core, but it really prevented us from being able to open it up to any businesses in the general commercial core, along Edward Street in the uptown area, as well as a lot of businesses located in those rural areas. And there were also very specific eligibility requirements from the type of business that could participate too. So we're sensing that all of that is going to be completely opened up this time, and we'll see a lot more opportunity to deliver this to our businesses. And as you may recall, the town actually stepped in and provided some funding support to some of those businesses that were deemed ineligible for the previous digital transformation grant program. So we were very pleased to see council come forward and support those businesses that, you know, in sheer, just simply because they were located within a couple of blocks outside that BIA area, they were deemed to be ineligible, and yet really fit within those traditional parameters of the businesses that were being served. So all of that has been basically that, you know, that's been opened up completely at this point. So there will be no requirement for council to provide ongoing financial support. We anticipate every business that applies would be approved as long as they meet those key eligibility requirements, of which location is not a factor this time.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Gloria. Thanks, Dana. Councillor Jasmine, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd, but I agree with Councillor McConnell, Councillor Shankar, and Dana answered my question, so all good here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further comments? Just want to thank Dana and Justin for all the work on this. I've heard nothing but incredible praise from the businesses around Prescott, and particularly even comparing to other communities, just the attention to detail, and just to go back to that customer service line from the last presentation, the customer service has been absolutely fantastic. I've heard nothing but raves. So excellent work, and hopefully we'll see even more of it in the future when hopefully the grant funding is approved. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. And 12.3, that's staff report 56-2021, COVID-19 business recovery supports. Recommendation is that council approve a new COVID-19 business recovery support program in the amount of $15,000, whereby Prescott Proud dollars will be distributed to Prescott and area consumers utilizing a combination of methods to encourage shopping locally throughout each phase of Ontario's reopening plan. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Ostrander, seconded by pretty much everyone. Councillor Jasmine, I'll give you the honors, and back to Dana again to give us the details.
Thank you, Mayor Todd, through you to council. So as council members may recall, we launched a very similar program to provide support to the business community in the summer of 2020, when we were in a similar phase of reopening. Hopefully this is the final and permanent round. What we're looking at here, proposing here, is a very similar program with a few modifications. So large portion of the dollars would be distributed to the business community to in turn give away to consumers who make a purchase at their place of business, that they can either respend at the same place of business or another location down the road. And that's really to try to get some dollars flowing locally throughout the community. And as I'm sure you're aware, one of the beautiful parts about this program is the dollars have to be spent locally within Prescott's boundaries, so they are guaranteed to support our local business community. And as in partnership with the BIA, our business development officer has come up with a really unique way in distributing some of these dollars, which actually has launched already because the BIA is graciously offered to support the program with a contribution of $1,500. So we've actually been utilizing that $1,500 and getting it out to the community by way of a fun scavenger hunt that's being branded Rediscover the Riverwalk District. And we've selected a number of downtown businesses, and we'll be going uptown as well. And we've got a hoodie that we're placing in the businesses that local shoppers have to come in, guess the place where the hoodie is being displayed, come in and repeat the catchphrase to win a hoodie, as well as 25 Prescott Proud dollars that can be spent there or at another place of business. And then we have 2 other draws for just Prescott Proud dollars. So we're looking at taking probably 1,500 to 5,000 of those dollars and distributing them by way of the fun scavenger hunt program that we've launched. And then the others would be more the traditional distribution, putting them directly in the hands of the business owners to then in turn give away to consumers in exchange for making a purchase and supporting their business. And that's pretty much it. The financial impact, it will be $15,000. And we also have received the contribution of $1,500 from the BIA. So that would actually bring the total cost down to $13,500 with the BIA's contribution.
And that would be coming from the COVID funds, of course.
Matthew, I believe so. Yes, I'm sure he can elaborate on the specific source of funding.
Absolutely, that's correct. So there was $66,000 in COVID funding that we received for 2021, which wasn't allocated as part of the budget. So so far, we've allocated $15,000 for the not-for-profit program for the first 6 months of this year, and then another $13,500 would be allocated to this program if council approves.
Thanks very much for that financial update, Matt. Appreciate it. So open it up for comments, questions from members of council. No comments. I'll proceed with the vote then. All in favor? Good stuff. And thanks for bringing this forward. I think we've done a pretty good job actually of trying to support our businesses through this very difficult time. And I think we're positioning ourselves to come out of the lockdown in a good way. So 12.4, a staff report 57-2021 Farmers and Crafters Market Bylaw. Recommendation is the council approve the adoption of a new Farmers and Crafters Market bylaw. And of course, we did look at this a couple of weeks ago as well. So it's back for a second look and hopefully a final approval tonight. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Young, seconded by Councillor Ostrander. And I believe that's back to you again, Dana.
Thank you, Mayor Todd, through you to council. Something I also just wanted to note is, in building on the last report, the response from the business community was absolutely fantastic. And they have been asking repeatedly when the next round or when or if the next round of this promotion is going to be approved by council. So they will be very pleased to hear this, and the impact is definitely greatly appreciated by our businesses. So thanks for that ongoing support. Over to the farmers market. So as you mentioned, Mayor Todd, we had brought the first iteration of this before council a couple of weeks ago, and we had some really good discussion during the meeting that resulted in some new ideas to look at opening up the farmers market eligibility to some new vendors that would allow vendors with new products to come into the market, to really kind of build this out into something that offers a lot of variety for potential consumers, whether it be produce, handcrafted items, artisan products, or actual new products that could even include some of our local businesses with brick and mortar locations that may provide them with an opportunity to also participate in the market. And then we also discussed some new options of bringing mobile food vendors down. Everything again from local restaurants that have handheld food products that they'd like to sell, to more of your franchisee type of food trucks like the Beaver Tails operation that we've seen kind of making its rounds throughout Prescott over the past couple of months. So the biggest change really from the last bylaw is the addition of the new vendor option, which would allow for new product vendors to really, hopefully increase the participation of vendors in the market. And it's one of the bigger requirements for farmers markets is the requirement to retain at least 51% of the traditional market type of vendors. So as you're aware, we're rebuilding this from scratch. A lot of local farmers are already very well established with existing markets. So it's going to take some time to rebuild this. And we thought this would also be a good opportunity to help offset, some of those traditional areas that might be lacking a little bit that we're trying to build on in the first few years with a greater variety of vendors. And we're also looking at bringing entertainment into the market, as we did mention during the last meeting. And something else we're proposing as part of this would be additional special market days that would allow for the sale of or the organization of special events such as a flea market, an antique or collectible market, or maybe even a community yard sale. And that could either be on site at the regular market site on a different day, or possibly even looking at another location, maybe even the Leo Boyven could be a potential great use that may tie in well to with Sam and some of the great plans that she just presented. So we're really, I think that's the biggest change, is the addition of those special market days and the ability for new vendors to come in. We also included a little bit of research here to give council members a better idea of what the rates are in other communities. So there's a pretty extensive list of other communities that have markets. And as you'll see, our recommended fee, the regular fee is $175 that we're recommending, but for 2021, because we are starting the market late, we'd be recommending a reduced special fee of $120. And then the daily recommended fee is $15. So as you'll see, that's pretty in line with what a lot of municipalities of comparable size are charging. Some are astronomically high, and others are well, free. For example, Augusta's market is free, which is the only existence of a free market that we could find. So I think we're very much in line with some other markets that are comparable in size, and we'd be proposing the regular rate of $175. And then we would have, of course, the mobile food vendor daily fee. That would be a $75 charge. And then not-for-profit organizations would be more than welcome to participate for free of charge. And attached to this, you've got your handbook, which essentially identifies a lot of the same elements that you'll see in the bylaw as well, which is, of course, included for your review and potential approval, as well as the vendor registration form. And that's it for me.
Thanks very much, Dana. I'll open it up for comments, questions. Councillor Jansman.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Dana, perhaps I should know this, and I'm sorry I missed the conversation at the last meeting, but when do we hope to have, is it depending on regulations or restrictions rather? When do we hope to have the market open this year?
It is, yeah. So we're shooting for July 24th, which we're anticipating will be that last phase of reopening, where we won't have to. It's a difficult time right now. There's a lot of restrictions that have to still be put in place. So we really thought the best period would be to align it with hopefully what will be that phase 3 of reopening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Other comments, questions? Councillor McConnell and then Councillor Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Through you, I have a couple questions on the actual bylaw here. It says section 7, permitted products. The majority of products sold by market vendors shall be Ontario grown or produced. And it says the sale of citrus fruits, bananas, and or vegetables or fruits grown, produced, processed outside of the province of Ontario are prohibited in Prescott's farmers market. A portion of the wares or produce offered for sale should be produced or grown by the seller. It seems to me a little waffling there. What are the actual regulations? Can you sell stuff that you haven't produced? Can you sell stuff that you've brought in from the United States or Quebec or someplace else? Can you clarify that for us, Dana, please?
Yeah, so essentially, to stay within, we're trying to maintain that traditional farmers market designation, and there are some key health unit requirements that need to be maintained, which you're speaking to there with some of those parameters, and being the majority of products sold by market vendors shall be Ontario grown or produced. All a portion of the wares or produce offered for sale should be produced or grown by the seller. So some of these are speaking to those farmers market requirements. E as well, the sale of citrus fruits, bananas, and or vegetables. And then others are requirements to really we're trying to attract vendors selling new products, but also stay away from this becoming a glorified yard sale, so to speak, right? There's a very fine balance. So that's why you'll notice some very specific wording here. For example, item C, that's where we're really trying to capture that new vendor potential issue that could result. So in that section, we're stating all non-food related products sold at the Prescott Farmers and Crafters Market must be new or substantially altered from their original state to be eligible for sale. So if, I guess, from a certain standpoint, it may seem like we're waffling, but the wording is very specific and every item really does address a different requirement.
That's as clear as mud, unfortunately, from where I'm sitting. It's, I don't know, when I read it, it almost sounds like you can sell anything except bananas or fruits. If you're selling blueberries, nobody in the area is picking blueberries. You can sell blueberries, as long as you're selling a bunch of other stuff that is produced locally as well. I can understand where you're coming from as far as regulations of traditional farmers markets, but just reading it as a bystander, or I find it vague enough that you could probably sell just about anything from what I can read.
So section E goes on to say it gets more general and does speak to vegetables or fruits in general. And it specifically spells out citrus fruits and bananas for some reason. Maybe if we adjusted the text to be more general, because it does go on to capture any other vegetable or fruits grown or produced outside of the province of Ontario. But it's a very valid point. It can definitely lead to potential confusion in the interpretation.
Anything further, Wayne?
No, just a comment. I mean, I'm totally in favor of this. I think it's, I mean, we had a farmer's market here for years. The original market building was on the same site historically. It's a good thing. You go into other communities, and whether it's a Sunday afternoon market like Kemptville has had for quite some time, that attracts a lot of people, or Brockville on Saturday mornings, they're crowded on the street there. I think it's a great thing. I think we should be developing it. I hope the farmers, whoever is displaying there, do well. I just find the wording a bit vague. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor McConnell. Who did I have next? Councillor Young and Mike, did you have? I think I had Councillor Ostrander next. So Mike, then Ray, please.
Doesn't matter. I'll get a turn. Well done, Dana. I read it over pretty thoroughly. There are some areas, of course, that might be a bit of trial and error, but that's the nature of these things, particularly where you're dealing with seasonal products. I think your biggest bonus this time around is having a market clerk. You mentioned that Justin is going to take on that role, I believe, as the market clerk for the farmers market. It'll be a bit of a learning curve for them, I guess, but in the same sense, it will negate those Monday morning complaints about market items that invariably come back to town hall sometimes. So I think you've lined it up pretty good. It's like anything else, you have to set it in gear and just see how it goes. It certainly looks to have some potential. I like the food truck idea. I also like the idea of some live music that you mentioned before as well. So here's hoping we can liven up the downtown and make a go of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Ostrander. Councillor Young, please.
Thank you, Brett. Dana, I didn't go back and read the bylaws from 2003 or 2014, but I believe this continues a trend of opening up the restrictions a little bit more in an attempt to make it livelier and busier, and all of that will help everyone that's there. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Councillor Young. That's really the intended purpose. And more and more these markets are becoming a real business development tool, almost an incubation tool for potential entrepreneurs, artisans that are making fantastic products or providing wonderful services and aren't prepared to move into that brick and mortar location. But a farmer's market represents a great opportunity, a great stepping stone for them to explore that market and potentially move into a full brick and mortar location down the road. And that's really what we're also hoping to build on with our Prescott pop-ups idea, that it would provide a potential, and maybe some of these businesses would come out of the market, provide them with a more permanent business location, seasonal, of course, that again could then lead into a permanent brick and mortar location. And the farmers market is, our broader intent here is, yes, we're trying to attract as many vendors as possible, but it's really the entertainment that goes along with that, the music, having buskers down there, maybe have a balloonologist down there making balloon animals for one day, or a caricaturist the next weekend, along with some acoustic performers and some great food with smells that really attracts people down to that downtown core, makes it a really vibrant area that really spins off into supporting all of those downtown businesses.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any comments from anyone else? Yeah, excellent work. I fully agree. The only question I did have, again, and I think I raised this a couple of weeks ago too, do we really need that? And it probably never come up, but I'd hate to see anyone turned away because of the number, but the food vendors limited to 20% of the total vendor licenses. I mean, chances are that number is not going to be a problem, but it does make me wonder if we do have a limited number of vendors total, but say we have 4 or 5 food vendors that want to come and it puts it over the 20%. Do we need the 20%?
There is some flexibility in there, but you have to have 51% of your market needs to be those traditional produce, farmers market style vendors, either selling produce or honey, those type of actual goods. And that again leaves you 49%. So we were thinking that having the 20% minimum for your food vendors then leaves that remaining 29% to be the other type, your product style of vendors that are selling the non-farmers market items. So we were just thinking more from a balance perspective, and to be perfectly honest with you, Mayor Todd, this is what we were seeing in other bylaws. So we'd be happy to look at other options, certainly.
Okay. Yeah, no, I have no issue with it. I just, I do know the food vendors can be a huge draw. So I hate to actually have an issue, but if as long as we do have that, the market clerk of Justin's looking at it, if you've got an extra food vendor there and that takes you over the 20%, I mean, I wouldn't want to shoo anyone away right now in particular. Maybe if we get to the point, we've really got to look at that to make sure we have a good balance, maybe at some point, but it's not something that, I would hope we wouldn't chase people away just based on the percentage. No, well, it looks good to me. The only thing I would add, again, as I mentioned the last time, And I think we're all on the same page with this one. Just make these events, bring in some entertainment, bring in whatever we can that'll draw people down there, because we've really gotten away from, especially with COVID. But I mean, we had a couple of lean years even before that with the farmers market. So we've got to get people accustomed to going down there again. And anything we can do is added entertainment, whether it's, you know, music acts, folk acts, whomever, whatever. I think we've got to kind of go outside the box there to try to bring people in, and don't limit it to music either. I just would encourage you to look at different things that could bring families down. I know there are some touring exhibits we've had in the past that have brought people down, as raised reptiles, things like that. I just, anything we can do to bring people in. Lee, you had a comment?
Yeah, a question, if I may, Brent. We've been talking about bringing people in and the things that are bringing people in. What do you have specific ideas on how to bring market gardeners or food trucks, or but what are you going to do? Do you have an idea of how you're going to attract people that are actually going to have displays there?
What I was talking about for entertainment and that is paying to bring acts in. We do have a little bit of I think we have a little bit of a budget for that. But along with everything else, I guess that's just marketing. And, you know, Sam had some really good ideas there as well. And I'm sure Dana and Justin too, to try to branch out. A lot of it is word of mouth too. Once it becomes when the customers are there and you build it up, people will come out, because obviously there's money to be made. But yeah, other than that, no, I didn't have anything. Dana, were you asking that more broad based? Like, Dana, do you have anything?
I actually have. I was thinking more of Dana than yourself, but
Dana,
you were on a roll. I didn't want to interrupt you.
No worries. Dana, any ideas on how to attract vendors and groups?
Well, and I think a lot of those same channels will be used. It's a real combination of direct recruitment and just more of a mass marketing kind of word of mouth throughout the vendor community. We'll also be approaching other area markets that don't operate on competing dates and times to see if we can't possibly attract vendors from there. And really just doing a lot of public promotions so that we can get people who happen to know vendors in the area that may be interested. Again, one of the biggest obstacles is really going to be the farm market, those traditional farmers, produce, you know, vegetable, all of those vendors. I think that's going to be the biggest obstacle. So we're very much looking for, you know, suggestions. If anyone around this table or out in the community who may be listening tonight, I would definitely encourage you to follow up with myself or Justin St. Pierre. You can find our contact information on the website. But we'll be doing a lot of direct vendor recruitment as well as some broader marketing. So really trying to capture as many new vendors as we can. And Justin was actually out visiting the vendor that was set up on Henry and Edward Street just this week to see if we can't convince them to consider us at least one day.
That was the next comment I was going to make as well, because I know Lee brought it up at the last meeting too, that, you know, try to get people down to the central location, because that's going to be difficult in the north end, just given the added traffic up there. Lee, did you have another comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say that probably the busiest store that we have down the street is the liquor store. And I noticed that alcoholic beverages are allowed at the farmer's market. And we have had the taste of Prescott, well, several times. It's been well attended. We have targeted wineries to come. I'm wondering if perhaps we could target a winery to come once in a while. Or we have the distillery and the brewery east of town. Perhaps we could encourage them to come in and set up for the afternoon. Alcohol seems to attract people, and who knows? It might do something for it.
Yeah, there's
They're
definitely
one of our first targets.
there are enough people out there in the area. You see with how good things have gone in Kempville. Brockville seems to have had some really big years. They've had the Christmas markets, of course, even during COVID. So they've done very well. So I think, and I think Dana did mention about, you know, reaching out, trying to, you know, because it is kind of a partnership in the area. I mean, not everybody is going to offer the same things. And I mean, people like going, especially now, they can get out, they like going on drives. So maybe hit 2 or 3 farmers markets on a Saturday and or a Sunday. The other thing I did want to mention too is we talked about vendors and what we're selling. And this goes back a little bit to Samantha's presentations. I do think, and I mentioned it before, I think there's an opportunity for a larger scale, different sort of market, whether it's a flea market or something along those lines. We talked about antiques, and I know that staff's looking at that. And we've definitely got an opportunity there as well, because what we've got in the arena is a very big, wide open space, which contrasts to places like McAfee's and even the Brockville flea market with much more cramped quarters. So that's something that actually may help us provide a good market space for other opportunities going beyond the farmers and crafters. So just something to keep in mind that as we move forward and start bringing people into town for markets overall and these sorts of events. Any final comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carried. Thanks, everyone. And 12.5 is staff report 58-2021 website refresh. A recommendation is that council directs staff to bring back a report on July 19th, 2021, outlining the available options and costs associated with a website refresh through eSolutions for further discussion and consideration. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Young, seconded by Councillor Ostrander. Lindsay, was this you? I just got to scroll down to that report again.
Yep, it was me.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Todd. So as the report outlines, staff have been looking at ways to improve the current website's accessibility, functionality, and user experience. And Sam kind of touched upon that as well in her presentation. So some of the ways that we've been looking at improving that is through adding landing pages specific to areas that staff would like to focus on, such as economic development, tourism, recreation, and perhaps fire department and library. Other upgrades that we've been looking at would include e-commerce payment options and a form builder function, which would allow staff to create accessible, fillable forms that could be tracked and downloading the results so we could keep better traces of what's being submitted. So after having conversations with our current website provider, eSolutions, we received some costing back on some of those upgrades, and they did come back a little higher than expected due to the age of the current website. And we were also informed that one of our current modules, the news module, which is on the homepage of the town and we use as the pop-up, that normally would show any information that we want to have users see right away, such as job opportunities, media releases, tax information, would require an upgrade as well. Again, because of the age of the website, it couldn't support that, so we would lose the ability to use that module at the end of this year. So based on that information, staff is looking for direction from council to begin the process to obtain some costing and quotes in order to refresh our current website, just to improve that functionality and then give us access to that news manager again, and microsites, which would work the same way as landing sites, e-commerce, and then just to update some content and photos on the website. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Velkamp, open it up for comments, questions, please. Seeing not a whole lot there tonight. That sounds good. So we'll anticipate that coming back in July with some numbers. And hard to believe. I mean, website time fly. Like with COVID, I mentioned probably about 16 times tonight now. Just how much the clock's been messed up the last year and a half or so with COVID. But I think it's been 5 years since we did the big website revamp. Now it's hard to believe it's that long, and that's forever in when you're talking about anything digital these days. So good to get this back in front of us. Any final comments from members? Seeing no, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. And we do have one more item under 12 tonight, and that is staff report 59-2021, technology equipment to return to in-person meetings. And the recommendation is that council approve the purchase of the Logitech Rally Plus video conferencing system for Zoom with a maximum budget of $9,800, support it through the use of modernization funding to help facilitate the return to in-person meetings in council chambers. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Shankar, seconded by Councillor Young. Over to you, Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So before we had COVID, we were recording council meetings in council chambers. What we heard is that the sound was very difficult to hear because we were using more of a ambient microphone, and it wasn't picking up the detailed conversation. So we had been working on several solutions, and before COVID, every solution we looked at was fairly expensive, would require kind of piecing together multiple pieces of disparate technology, trying to make them work as one. So really what COVID did is kind of accelerated some of those options. And this is what you're seeing before you this evening in this report, is it's the Logitech Rally Plus video conferencing system. So it includes a camera, it includes the microphones that we can disperse throughout the room. It includes speakers. So if we do have anybody that's doing a virtual presentation, or any of our council members are attending the meeting virtually, if they happen to be away or are unable to attend in person, that all of that kind of comes in a combined package that we can put together in council chambers, have the microphones appropriately dispersed throughout the room, as I mentioned, and really it would act as one more person in the room. So we would be able to, and one of the things I'm suggesting is actually moving staff members that are presenting to a table that would be at the open part of the U in the room. And so that way, when we're speaking or when somebody happens to be presenting that's virtual on the meeting, is that you're looking directly into the camera. And the people at home are able to see you, hear you when you're talking, all of those types of things. So we have seen this system in action. One of our vendors has this, and it works flawlessly, really well put together, and really brings all of those technologies into one package that you're not trying to work against compatibilities. And so one of the things that we haven't had in the room for quite a while is our own microphone system. All of that was previously provided through Cogeco, and the solution that we currently have down there, I think, actually goes backwards as opposed to forwards in terms of technology. So certainly those were some of the things that we were looking at, and we were pleased to see that there is an all-in-one encompassing package that we're putting before you. So it would require us buying the kind of the base package and then adding a couple of the additional microphones to it, and then we should be able to have that set up. Because as we see it, as moving forward, first of all, at this point, the requirement is still to wear the masks in the room, things like that. But this would allow hybrid meetings if people aren't comfortable with returning there, or if people from the public or a presenter wanted to attend virtually, that this allows for that. So really it allows a number of things and solves a number of issues that we were having, and brings it all into one nice, neat little package that we can move forward with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Open it up for comments, questions. Anyone? Okay. Councillor Shankar, please.
I think originally we had a pretty large budget for that. And then we looked at doing something, and I noticed this number was a lot less than what we originally were thinking. Is that true?
That's correct. And so we're happy that it brings it all together and at a lower cost. And because, as I mentioned, trying to bring audio and visual together, and they're not all part of one package, that you require a bunch of intermediary connection points, and that really drove up the cost.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, we were looking at 20 grand plus, were we not?
Yeah, some of the options that we were looking at were definitely 15, 20, and up towards those numbers.
Further comments, questions? Matt, I just had one myself. Will should we add extra cameras like for presentations and so forth to get different views on the room? I mean, I am assuming the way Logitech runs everything, that this will be expandable. So I just wondered if we would need another camera then.
The neat thing about this camera is that we can actually move it. It has a gimbal on it that we're able to move electronically straight from that little touchpad. And so in particular with my table moving towards the back of the room, we would be able to put the speaker up at the front. And so again, everyone's on camera then, and we're able to move the camera as people are talking. So we view it as kind of a really neat solution, and we can spin it around 360 degrees.
I was just thinking for presentations to council, don't we usually have people at the podium? And
Yeah, so the podium would actually be up beside you where my table used to be.
Oh, we're going to move it there. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It'd be good to see it. And yeah, it makes sense now that you explain it that way. So no, that's good. Councilor McConnell, and any other comments, please, and we'll move on. Lee, please.
Obviously, you're going to have somebody that's controlling this camera if it's focusing on each one of us as we're speaking, or another speaker. It's going to have to be movable, and it's going to have to be movable all the time. So who's looking after it?
So there's a touchpad that comes with the system, and you're able to control it from the touchpad. So either myself or the clerks will be able to deal with that. And then you don't actually have to touch the camera. It just moves as per your directions.
And we were doing this with the previous system too, were we not? I remember, was it Kim and Lindsay were moving the camera back and forth at different times?
Yep. But you actually had to physically go and touch the camera, where this one provides a lot better options.
Oh, good. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. Oh. And that takes us through item 12 tonight. One thing I will note in terms of the aim to return to in-person meetings, talked to Matthew about this a little bit the last couple of weeks, and I'd like to move back into in-person meetings for try it for our meeting in July. The equipment should be in by then, I understand, or at least a good possibility of arriving by then and being installed. So that's what I'd like to aim for. But if anyone has any feedback, send me an email and let's talk about it. But we're at the point now where I'm hoping with the vaccinations and the way we're moving forward with the provincial standards, hopefully being relaxed once, if not twice more by the time we meet, we should be back to in-person meetings. So that'll be the aim anyway. So we'll ask staff, will let us know, and we'll give everyone plenty of notice and how we're going to plan that forward. So under 13 tonight, resolutions under 13.1 is Town of Fort Erie resolution of support regarding capital gains tax on primary residence. And Lindsay did give me an option out of delivering these huge speeches, but for the benefit of people at home, I decided we're going to continue to read them. So deep breath, and we'll read the recommendation. Whereas primary residences are currently exempt from a capital gains tax, and whereas currently secondary and additional non-primary properties are subject to capital gains, and whereas the federal government is currently looking into a primary residence capital gains tax, as they have recognized that affordable housing has become a serious issue in Canada, and whereas smaller communities, including the town of Prescott, are seeing unprecedented higher selling prices that are outpacing prices in larger cities, and whereas many hardworking Canadians who have only a primary residence with no additional non-primary homes count on their home equity as financial aid to apply to upsizing or downsizing their home, depending on their personal situation, and whereas a change in taxation to primary residences would be a significant financial blow to Canadians and would create an unfair two-tiered taxation, which could lead to depleted savings, intergenerational disparities among diverse groups such as seniors who may have a significant portion of their savings vested in their primary residence, as well as reducing the ability of home ownership, thereby a further higher need for rentals. Whereas the federal government could look at other means to slow down the rapidly escalating housing costs to improve housing affordability. Therefore, be it resolved that the Corporation of the Town of Prescott support the resolution of the Town of Fort Erie requesting that the federal government cease further consideration of eliminating capital gains tax exemptions on primary residences. And further, that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, MP Michael Barrett for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes, MPP Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and of course also the MPP for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes, and all Leeds and Grenville municipalities. And as noted, this was originally brought forward by the town of Fort Erie. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor McConnell, seconded by Councillor Jansman. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. And on to 14, bylaws. We do have one bylaw tonight addressing what we just discussed with the Farmers and Crafters Market. So under 14.1, that bylaw, and the recommendation reads that bylaw 31-2021, being a bylaw to establish and regulate a farmers and crafters market, be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Ostrander, seconded by Councillor Young. Any final discussion on this topic tonight? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. And I probably don't have to mention this, Dana, but if you could please just let us know when we're about to start, and whatever we can do to help out with a grand opening whenever we get going again with the Farmers and Crafters Market. Really excited to get that back up and running again. So thanks so much for all your work on that. 15, new business. Any member of council have any new business to bring forward tonight? Councillor McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I got a couple items of new business. It won't take very long. They're actually the latest chapters in old business, but I think council should be informed. Last week, we had a discussion on something that was provided by the Heritage Committee in relation to a house on Henry Street. I believe it's 290 Henry. It was the original old registry office in town. It had been purchased, and the owner had applied to the Heritage Committee to make substantial changes. The Heritage Committee was in agreement with one stipulation that was forwarded to council for its approval, and last week, as you will remember, council approved. Unfortunately, the very next morning, Sean got a call from the purchaser who indicated that something had happened in her life or her family, and she was no longer able to proceed with the renovations, and she was going to put it up for sale. Very disappointing, but the recommendations that were made as far as the renovations on that property stand. So if the new purchaser wishes to proceed along the same lines, they can. However, the property is protected. If they wish to do renovations other than what council has already permitted to be done, it will have to come back before the Heritage Committee and then again back before council. So it's very disappointing. But I guess it's just a latest chapter in an ongoing saga on that. And I guess we could say several properties in town. The second one was also discussed last week, and that is Shakespeare. Shakespeare, unfortunately, has made the decision this past week that they are not going to be able to produce a show this summer at the amphitheater. It was a very tough decision. It was a decision that was made probably 3 weeks to a month after it should have been made. It was prolonged for as long as it possibly could be. But the uncertainty as to the amount of people that they could put in the amphitheater was the deciding factor. And of course, the number of seats that are in the audience determines the amount of money that's coming in the gate. And it was felt that Shakespeare could not sustain a large loss. And so we've decided not to proceed with a show for the second season. However, that does not mean that there won't be entertainment this summer. Shakespeare is actively pursuing bringing some entertainment in for several days, a week, 2 weeks. In other words, shows that are produced elsewhere and brought here. There are cost savings involved in that because, of course, we don't have to pay for costumes. We don't have to build the scenery. We don't have to pay for the rehearsal time. And so there's no definite there, but it should be known that Shakespeare is actively pursuing that. And hopefully shortly we will be able to announce some kind of a schedule for the month of August. Nathan has indicated to me today that the repairs on the amphitheater floor have taken place. So we will be painting that, so it will be available for any performances that are ongoing, weddings, rentals, whatever we have coming up in the future this summer. So it's bad news as far as Shakespeare goes, but it is good news as well because we are still pursuing some entertainment for the town that we can provide and still hopefully not suffer a loss on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee, for the updates on both those items. Thanks to the Shakespeare Board for doing what they could to try to have a season this summer. I know I talked to Richard as well, and I talked to you now a number of times, and they did the best they could, but the circumstances are just not cooperating so far this year. It's incredible they actually managed to last as long as they could, hoping that there would be a bit of a break in the clouds on this, but unfortunately that break's just not coming quick enough to salvage the season. So looking forward to announcements of events down there in the not too distant future. So to salvage something for this year.
The frustrating thing, if I may, Brett, is that Matthew has looked at the distancing requirements in the amphitheater, and based on those requirements and based on the total seating in the amphitheater, he has figured out that if we were allowed the same seating as other outdoor facilities as churches, for example, indoor, we would be able to put 90 people in the amphitheater. He's conveyed that to the health department. They've looked at the figures and they are in complete agreement. But there is no indication from the province that they are going to do anything arts-wise. So it's a very, very frustrating situation, knowing that if we were treated fairly like some other organizations, that we could probably have gone ahead, but with no indication that that is going to happen or when it's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tough situation all around for sure for all performing arts festivals and events across the province this summer. Speaking of COVID, I do have one other. Matt did look it up when I mentioned the vaccines earlier. So I just wanted to note out to everybody watching, we do have the vaccine clinic here in town at the Leo Boyven Community Center on this Thursday, June 24th. That's running 10 to 5. I believe that those appointments have been booked, but I do believe there's also a contingency list. So if you're on that list, hang by the phone on Thursday and you may get the call. Our next clinic, though, is July 6th at the Leo again, 10 to 5. And there are appointments available right now at the Health Unit website. You just have to log on to the Health Unit right from the main page. Very easy to do, as I've done it myself for a clinic. And you can log in and sign up for those second doses very, very quickly. So again, that's for the booking now for July 6th clinic here at the Leo Boyven Community Center, 10 to 5 that day. Go to the Health Unit website and you can sign up for that vaccine. So moving along, we do have notices of motion under 16. Anyone have a notice of motion to present tonight? Seeing none, mayor's proclamations under 17, nothing tonight. 18, closed session, first time, and I don't know how long we haven't had a closed session. All good there. And 19, so rise and report, nothing there as well. Takes us right to 20, the confirming bylaw for this evening. That's 32-2021. The recommendation reads, but that bylaw 32-2021 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on June 21st, 2001 be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councilor Ostrander, seconded by Councilor Shankar. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried, and we're at 21. Our motion for adjournment tonight. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councilor Shankar, seconded by Councilor Jansman. Just before I call the vote, I just want to, we're going to be moving into our abbreviated summer schedule with just the one meeting in July, another in August. So I just did want to thank everyone. It's been let's be honest, it's been a hell of a 6 months. And I want to thank everybody on council and everybody on staff for the great teamwork and just the great work together over some very, very difficult circumstances. We've managed to hang together, and I think we've provided some really excellent service to the town of Prescott. And despite the fact that we've had so many challenges, we've also had some real wins these past 6 months as well, particularly with the arena. So as we move into the second half of 2021 and we move out of the pandemic and move out of the lockdown, we've got nothing but some clear skies and some real sunshine ahead compared to what we've gone through the last 6 months. So probably shouldn't even mention this without knocking on wood, but I think we're through the worst of this and we are moving forward together. So I just want to thank everyone for the great effort at Town Hall, both council and staff, the first 6 months of this year. It's been greatly appreciated.
Here, here.
With that, I will call for the motion for adjournment this evening. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to those who were watching tonight, and we'll see you next month. Take care and enjoy the summer.
Good night.
Oh.
I know. Bye-bye.